Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto Willis, host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have, as usual, a great show for you today. Look, a whole lot has happened. A whole lot is happening. I want to thank you guys, first of all, for being here. Look, we have a lot of work to do. Mucho trabajo para hacer. Nosotros tenemos que funcionar. We've got to work. We've got to work hard, and we all have to come together. But beforehand, I want to break the mood. I want to bring on something that I did on Friday after listening to Brother Ali Velshi. Ali Velshi set the tone. And I want you guys to listen to that, and then we are going to get into Social Security. We're going to get into the rent. We're going to get into all those things and what we need to be telling people, how we need to be informing people, and how we are going to win in a landslide in November, because we are going to be dragging all those good folk who really want what's well for us all together. But beforehand, let's talk about what the show is going to be. The title of the show today: Social Security Works Executive Director talks Social Security. And we're also going to talk about the stimulus, the Trump fraud on America. Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works, explained that Donald Trump has started the destruction of Social Security. Well, I should really have put continuing the destruction of Social Security. We also discuss Trump's latest fraud on Americans. Ali Velshi, the current state of unfettered capitalism. He'll discuss Stephanie Ruhle, correct on Trump and GOP sudden care for the deficit. Paul Begala's Social Security's winning message. We got to hit that one. Winning message. And Donald Trump's continual fraud on America. So those are the major topics of discussions. We have a whole lot of videos to show you on before we bring on Alex, but it's going to be a great show. But let's go ahead and start with Ali Velshi, because I thought he was spot on. I think this is one that needs to be spread all over the darn country, because people need to get it. Whether it's Trump's people or somebody else's people, they need to understand this. Here we go. So I'm finishing up the final touches on my book, How to Talk to People on the Right Wing, right? And I have Ali Velshi in the background as I'm typing. Thought I was done with blogs for the day, and then he said it. I want you to listen to this, and then let's take it on the other side. This guy is a journalist. I hope they don't try to take him off of MSNBC, because we need some truth telling, folks.
The unemployment rate dropped in July to 10.2%. Still, the highest since the Great Recession. The unemployment rate for Hispanic workers, 2.7%, higher. For black workers, it's 4.4% higher. 1.8 million jobs were added in July, but the cumulative number of those employed is still the lowest since the Great Recession. Stock markets are actually near record highs right now. The S&P 500 is within striking distance of its all-time high. When I started my career as a financial reporter, the markets are a better barometer of the economy. They're not now, because economic policies in this country are rigged in favor of the wealthy. That's the bigger problem that has sealed the economic fate of generations of Americans, particularly black and brown Americans. Let me lay out for you how this works. Stocks are high for two reasons right now. First, investing in stocks became the only game in town when the Federal Reserve made it easier to borrow money by slashing interest rates. And lower interest rates made buying real estate the best deal it's been in over a decade for those who can afford it. So money begets money. The rich get richer. Meanwhile, congressional negotiations for a coronavirus relief bill collapsed today. The $600 in enhanced unemployment benefits expired last Friday. The federal moratorium on evictions expired 2 weeks ago. More local bans on evictions are set to expire in the coming days. At least 5.4 million people have lost their health insurance because of the pandemic. But Donald Trump is now, currently, as we speak, trying again to gut the Affordable Care Act. I'm a capitalist, but it doesn't have to be this way. Americans have been made to fear policies that redistribute wealth. But think about it. The American system has redistributed wealth from the poor to the rich for a long time. The poor work for low wages. The rich profit from it. If the rich can't benefit from workers who are willing to be paid low enough wages to make cheap products, those jobs move elsewhere, where people who can work for less will do them. The poor people who lose their jobs in America then lose their health care and their homes. The rich people buy those homes using money that they borrow at near zero interest rates. The rich keep getting richer. It is the American way for redistributing wealth. It doesn't have to be that way, though.
It is structural, folks. It is structural. You have to change policies. Ali Velshi, thank you. We don't have a lot of people on cable TV, on network TV, on cable and network news TV informing Americans. They don't know this. Putting it as simple as you put it is something that we talk about on politics done right all of the times. This is what Americans need to hear. If they can hear this and we can bring forth the people who are going to mitigate it, who are going to say, this is how we change this structural problem to help American citizens. And you know what? Guess what? Coronavirus gives us enough disruption that these changes that are inherently disruptive should be possible, because within disruption we can make change. Ali Velshi, you have got the host of the host award, not of the week, not of the month, of the damn year. Okay, that I thought was an exceptional, so I went ahead and I did that. I put it together, all of that. Woke up in the morning and noticed it kind of went all over the place. Ali Velshi apparently saw it because he retweeted it. But anyhow, one other thing. You notice I said when I was putting the final touches on my book, right? Guess what? It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. It's out. It is shipping. It's already on Amazon. It's up and ready to go. I've already got it out there, and people are taking a look at it like crazy. So the book that I've been talking to you guys about writing, I really needed to get this one out before the previous book, because this one is a propos. This is one of them that we need to have out there like now. So the book, guys, are ready. So go out there to I'll tell you guys where you can get it in a little bit. But anyhow, it's at Amazon. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Por Egberto Willies. If you go to Amazon, you can just put Egberto Willies in there, and you'll see all the books that I have out there at Amazon. Anyhow, if you want to know what the state of where we are economically, I want to go ahead and play. What Professor Jason, he worked for under the Obama administration, had to say about the economy, and then we'll move on from there.
Almost 1.2 million workers in the U.S. filed for state unemployment benefits last week. That is the lowest weekly total we've seen during the pandemic, but it's the 20th straight week the number of new claims is more than 1 million. Good to see you again, Jason. Look, I mean, on the surface, if you're not an economist, you could say, oh, this is good news, bad news, but how do you see it?
I think this is bad news. This is the worst week for unemployment insurance claims that we've ever seen up until the pandemic. It's definitely better from the horrific news that we were getting a few months ago, but it's still in deep recession territory.
Back in April, you predicted the U.S. was about to see the best economic data we've seen in the history of this country. What's your crystal ball telling you these days?
The jobs numbers in May and June were enormous. The growth we're going to get for the third quarter of this year is probably going to be the record growth for a quarter of this year. But all of that's just because you're coming from such an incredibly low point that getting, 1/3 of the way back to where you were looks like rapid growth, but still leaves you really far from where you want to go. So I think broadly speaking, the economy is mostly leveled off now. It has a lot more to go to recover, and it's going to be a lot harder to make progress going forward than it has been the last 2 months.
The reason I wanted to get that in is because what you're going to see being promoted by Trump is, we added, it doesn't look like it's going to happen because the coronavirus is going back into a peak again. But he had a hope that he could get these crazy high numbers because we're working from such a low to give the impression that things are going well. But people all the way in Appalachia, the ghettos and the barrios, I can guarantee you they're suffering, and their suffering will continue. Remember what I said in a few shows back. The depression will not be televised. We are going into a depression. A lot of you won't see it. In fact, the depression is going to be beneficial to a lot of those people who have jobs and are able to be solid. The depression have a tendency to be good for them because they can get just about anything at a discount when you are in a depression. But for those who are footing the bill of the depression, those without employment, those that are losing their homes, those who are going into foreclosures, where money marketers and all these guys are going to take over their homes, those are the ones that are going to suffer. And we're talking probably 30 to 40% of the population that we're looking at that this depression is going to really, really, really wipe out. And that's going to be a new addition to our poor. So when Donald Trump talks about what he's doing, let's listen to what Chris Jansen had to say about this little hoopla that he did with this. I'm signing some executive orders to take care of these issues. Take a look at this.
Up to 40 million people in the U.S. are at risk of eviction as they struggle to pay for housing as a result of the pandemic. And unfortunately, it appears the president's executive actions may not help most of them, if any. The action he signed at his New Jersey Gulf resort doesn't actually stop evictions. Rather, it calls for the HHS and CDC to consider whether an eviction ban is needed. Even if federal protections are extended, many states have zero protections, which leaves many of the most vulnerable, including those living in states that voted overwhelmingly for Trump in 2016, twisting in the wind.
Twisting in the wind. And that is exactly what's happening. He signed this bill, but guess what? This is just window dressing. No more than window dressing. It helps absolutely nobody, because here's the funny thing that he did with unemployment, right? He goes ahead and he says, well, we'll give $300. The states don't have to come up with $100. The states don't have $100 to come up. So then he can then say, okay, don't blame me. Blame the states. I am okay. Look, this president is not about you. This president is not about his sycophants. This president is not about his voters. This president is simply about this president. And if you doubt, Jayapal says it best.
Pramila Jayapal from Washington State. She is a member of the Budget Committee as well as the Judiciary and Labor and Education Committees. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I want to get into the possibility here of more negotiations. I want to start with a basic question, sort of a nuts and bolts thing. I know you don't think the president should have taken these actions over the weekend. I know you don't like the approach that he's put in them. But practically speaking, do you believe the things that he has done or says he has done through these executive actions, do you believe they are going to be implemented?
I don't know if they're going to be implemented, but even if they are, I mean, these were a PR stunt, nothing more than a public relations stunt, and a bad one at that, Steve. I mean, these executive orders, he does not continue the eviction on rent and mortgage assistance. He says maybe they should be considered as continuing the eviction moratorium. He says that he's increasing or he's continuing unemployment benefits, but he's actually slashing them in half because he's asking for states who have no money to participate in giving even less unemployment than what was assured before to people. He really has done nothing with these executive orders. And to me, what's horrifying is he's thinking about which battlefield to deliver his acceptance nomination speech, but we have the battlefield of coronavirus right here in America. And these executive orders do nothing to put money in people's pockets to help deal with the testing and contact tracing. You mentioned the statistics for New Zealand. They took immediate action. We in the United States of America have shown no leadership because this president refuses to admit that this is a real thing.
We have failed in every respect. In Europe, their citizens were made whole because they had no problems passing a stimulus in every single country above and beyond the solid social safety net that they have in these countries to protect their citizens. Notice that none of them have the type of unemployment that we have. Again, and likewise, when it came to handling the coronavirus, that was very well done in Europe. Once they got the shock, they did what was necessary to shut it down. It's amazing. There was once upon a time, Donald Trump didn't want people from the rest of the world coming in. Well, from the brown part of the world coming in. Why? Because they brought diseases with them. How poetic justice it is that they now don't want Americans in any country on this planet, except probably but a couple. Think about that. You know what they always say? When you're pointing a finger, how many of them are pointing back? Remember that. we are in a sad state that we have to get out of. Now, Donald Trump and all these guys suddenly found a reason why they can't be given $600, why they have to do less, because they don't want the budget deficit exploding. They have to do less because we are stopping Americans from working. Oh my God, Americans just want to sit on their butts and do absolutely nothing. Well, Stephanie ruled.
Stephanie, it seems like there's not a real urgency among some on Capitol Hill to get something done, potentially some in the White House, to get something done to help Americans. What I was just mentioning on the deficit, that comes from a Forbes article talking about the president's tax bill. You follow this so closely. You know what people are going through. You know how the deficits work. To have Mark Meadows and the Republicans say that we're worried about adding to the deficit with more money going back to Americans who need it. And remember, a payroll tax cut, as Kelly pointed out at the top of the show, it would only go to those who still have a job. There are more than 30 million Americans who are collecting unemployment insurance as of at least last month. The monthly jobs report came out today. What does it mean to not get this money back into the hands of Americans, back into the economy immediately, quickly?
Mark Meadows, are you kidding me talking about the deficit? Republicans love to talk about how much they care about the deficit. And the truth is, your average voter out there, if you ask them the U.S. deficit, they couldn't get within a gazillion. It's something that's an abstract, but Republicans like to go back and say it matters to them. To your point, it didn't matter when the president had his big corporate tax cut. And we've heard from the likes of Gary Cohn, former national economic advisor to the president, who said we did not need to make that corporate tax cut as big as we did. And it is laughable that the president continues to talk about this payroll tax cut. And again, this is all about money. The president continues to tweet how important it is to reopen schools. Here's the big catch. You cannot reopen and reconfigure schools without real dollars. The teachers union has said it would take about $116 billion to reconfigure schools. Thus far, the federal government has set aside $13 billion. So if they want to do that, they need to spend the money. And this narrative that people aren't going back to work because they're making just so much darn money, sure, that might be the case for a small portion of people, but let's not forget, if kids do have to stay home, well, then working families, working parents have to stay home with them. If people have jobs that don't provide health insurance, or to those Republicans who want to give businesses a liability shield so you hold no accountability if your employee gets sick, if you're a working parent, you're going to say, I can't go to work because I need to stay healthy for my children. So this all goes back to money. And to say that it's only the Republicans, the only way you're going to solve this for the American people is a financial cushion to give them the support and safety so they can go on and lead healthy, safe lives.
And economists have said that it's been the thing, that stimulus, that extra benefit in the unemployment insurance has been the thing that's kept the economy from cratering even further.
You know, I used to think maybe these guys just don't understand economics. Maybe they never took an economics 101 course, that they don't understand that in the time of distress, you have to put money into the hands of people that are going to spend it, not into the hands of the people that are going to invest it. It's an economic fact. And the fact that they're earned on the side of, let's use this pandemic to cut Social Security payments via FICA makes no sense, because what it means is, oh, you might put 7.5% more in that person's pocket and save that company's 7.5% in his matching portion to Social Security, but that decimates the Social Security fund, but it doesn't only do that. It's less of spending than if you just go ahead and give that money. The way an economy works is the circulation of money. But remember what I've always said. This country is not about getting things working like a well-oiled machine, because a well-oiled machine means we have a whole lot of educated people and we have a more egalitarian society where things are distributed among each other more equitably. What they want to maintain is the current type of caste system we have with the different classes. Now, the reason I've been saying for a very long time that Donald Trump will lose in a landslide by whoever ran against him, in this case it's going to be Donald Trump. In this case it's going to be Joe Biden beating him beating him so badly. And what I try to tell progressives right now, stop being fearful. Stop being fearful. We are going to win this thing if we just go out and take it. And the reason we are going to win this thing and go out and take it is because it is our job not to allow the Trump administration to snow the rest of the population when we are surrounded by evidence of him being a complete and total failure, not only in ideology, but also in economics, in their own personal economies. I want to start playing this by I want to show you what's happening in the suburbs, because what Donald Trump thought he could do is, I can't win on economic issues. I can't win on what I've done for you, but I can make you be fearful of those damn progressives, those damn thieves, those damn black people, those damn brown people. They are coming to get you, good old suburban women. They're coming to get you because he's going under the assumption that the racial scare in white people's heads are somehow going to bloom. And as it blooms, it's going to make them so fearful that he just has to say, they're coming to get you and they're going to get you out of your church. Well, you know what? He forgot that that old stuff may have worked in the past, but we have a lot of young people now. Check this out.
Joining me now from Kent County is NBC News digital reporter Dasha Burns. So, Dasha, I know you spoke with a panel of Republican voters there, and one voter in particular honed in on President Trump's law and order message and how that's going over in the suburbs where those critical voters are. Tell us more about it.
Hey, Chris, yeah, I've been following that slice of the electorate, conflicted conservative voters, for a while now. The voters I sat down with here in Kent County, I've been talking to since last November, and so much, of course, has changed in all of our lives since then, and it has impacted people's views politically. Take Katie Morse. She's a mom of two. She voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and when I first met her, she was still open to voting for him again, but since then, that door has closed, in part because of his response to the pandemic, but especially because of his response to the Black Lives Matter movement. To listen to how Katie views the Trump campaign's messaging, the law and order messaging targeting suburban moms like her.
You know, suburban moms, we aren't 1950s housewives anymore. And to make us think that we're going to be, this, defund the police thing, and we're going to all of a sudden be overrun in our communities by all these bad people is ludicrous.
Chris, I've watched Katie grow more and more frustrated over the last several months. Yesterday, she told me that she can't wait for November so that, quote, this nightmare can be over.
I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right and Independent. Now, if you take a look at what frustrated her is not that of what he's doing. It is funny because you look at her mentality. What got to her is, in effect, she's saying, he is saying that I'm stupid. He is looking down at me. He think those are the things that I care about, and those things are making me stupid. I am not. This guy knows not what he talks about. Now, so when it comes to the messaging that he has for the suburban woman, remember, that is going to be a failed message. It's a turn-off message. So we have got those voters. Those voters are looking now at reality instead of the imaginary things Trump puts out. But here's the kicker. The kicker is Donald Trump killed himself over the weekend. He said, I want to cut the FICA taxes now. And since he doesn't have the right to do it, right, all he can do is postpone when it's paid, but by a certain date, it has to be there. Those payroll taxes pay for Social Security. Here's what the intelligent Trump then said. But you need to re-elect me, because if you re-elect me, that Social Security tax that is in escrow that if you're going to have to pay in December, I will make sure that it becomes permanent. In effect, I am going to starve Social Security. I am going to starve Social Security, which means your mama, your daddy, your granny, and all these people will be left without Social Security. It will be reduced. It will be decimated, which is what they've always wanted. Remember George Bush attempted to privatize Social Security. I wonder what it would have been like if Social Security had been privatized then. What would have been your Social Security look like in 2008? And for those who are saying, but look at the stock market now. The stock market has nothing to do with the economic system at this point in time. It is a facade that is going to blow at any time. But anyhow, let's go ahead and tell. So the next most important issue, my dear brothers and sisters, is that Social Security issue. So we are going to get back all our older folks, 50 and above, who are starting to look at Social Security. Those are back to us, and the polls prove it. And the millennials, they are us. The only group right now that isn't all ours, and it is coming to us, is our white men. That's the only group that Donald Trump has left with a positive. And he will lose them as he continues to decimate their personal economies. As he continues to decimate their personal economies, even Mike Cisak is going to leave him. So anyhow, let me go ahead and let you guys know this is very important, what Paul Begala is going to say. And then we'll move on from there. We're going to get to Alex Lawson with Social Security Works. Check this out.
Paul Begala, do the Democrats risk overplaying their hand in these negotiations?
No. People are hurting, and people want help. I mean, it's music to my ears. I love Alice, but when she accuses Democrats of being Santa Claus, I mean, my God, they don't need Santa Claus. They need emergency responders. And in fact, there's one thread on this that I think Democrats really have to focus on. And God bless Joe Biden, he did, and that's Social Security. Right? Last night, Joe sent out a tweet, and he said this. Today, Donald Trump stated that if reelected, he'll undermine the entire financial footing of Social Security. This suspension of the payroll tax would cut the funding for Social Security, which is already being cut, of course, because of the recession. We're collecting less revenue in payroll taxes. So when you do that, you're cutting Social Security. Democrats need to know this in their bones. They need to have this in their cells, in the cytoplasm of their cells. They need to know that if they communicate to people that Donald Trump, in his last two budgets, proposed cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid by $2 trillion. Now he's doing it again as part of a so-called emergency COVID package, that he's bragged about it again and again. I mean, I'm sorry to be Nostradamus, but I have this in my book. There's an entire chapter about Trump wanting to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And I tell the Democrats that chapter is called "This Chapter Will Beat Trump, I Guarantee It." Joe Biden seems to know that. That's why he jumped all over that last night.
And that is why he jumped all over it last night. You know, people have been complaining about Biden, right? But I'm going to tell you something. Biden, with all the issues that he has, and you know where I think, you know, I'm a Berniac. I'm a Bernie man. I'm a progressive. I'm a Bernie man or an Elizabeth Warren person. But Biden is running an excellent campaign as far as I can see. And the gaffes that he's made are much less than what I had expected thus far, given that he is a bloviating gaffe machine. But that said, he is going to win in a landslide, and then those of us who are progressives will then must do our job. We have to take care of step one. Step one, you know what it is, and step two, you know what it is. Okay, before I get to Alex, I wanted to ask all you guys that are listening right now, remember, as I said, my book is out and you can get it. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. It's all and to Amazon. Just do a scan on Egberto Willies at Amazon and you can find the book. But also what I'd like to ask you is, for those of you who are not members, if you join Patreon, if you go to the link, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, anybody who subscribed at the $4.95 level, you get to read It's Worth It immediately. Right there online, you get to read it immediately. You can also help us by going to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal to support us. We are now able to take memberships on Facebook. You can go to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook, politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. And of course, you can go to our store, and our store is at politicsdoneright.com/store. You can get things like our beautiful cup. You can get my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, or, you know, I've had my weight problems, learn how to lose weight the way I did, but your way, of course. And of course, we have t-shirts with the squad and all. We have all kind of stuff. I support independent media. In fact, our good buddy here, Mike Cisak, not Mike Cisak, Rudnin told me it's okay to tell people that I got your T-shirt. So Rudnin got our T-shirt. So please, folks, support us in one of those ways. And of course, if you are on YouTube, just go ahead and hit that $ and give us a, as we love super chats as well. And if you have a message to put with your super chat, we'll be more than happy to do so. Anyway, let's go ahead and get busy and get Brother Lawson on. He's the executive director of Social Security Works. That is a premier #1 organization in DC, working on making sure these guys don't rip off Social Security. So let's get busy. Welcome to one more segment of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today we have Executive Director of Social Security Works, Alex Lawson. Look, folks, yesterday the president made one grave mistake, but the reality is that it was not a mistake. It is where the heart of the Republican Party has always been, but guess what? They finally found somebody who had the guts, the pelotas, to do what they really stand for. And right here with me, Alex is going to first explain to us exactly why is it that we have the Social Security taxes, the FICA taxes that gets removed every week from your paycheck. Talk to us a little bit about that, Alex.
So first, thanks for having me on to talk about this. And, you know, what we say is that Donald Trump is really just, he's the id of the Republican Party, but he also says the quiet part out loud. The only real difference between Donald Trump and the Republicans that we've been seeing for decades is that they use code words and they tried to sneak around what they wanted to do, like destroy Social Security. But Donald Trump yesterday, he just said it. He said, if I'm reelected, I'm going to terminate Social Security. I mean, he just said the quiet part out loud. So what he's talking about is, first off, their contributions. It's the FICA, is the Federal Insurance Contribution Act, because it's our money. It's not, we don't give this money to the government to do with what they want. We pay into the Social Security system, and we pay up on an insurance policy. It's wage insurance for if we retire and we lose our wages because we retire. And it's also $1 million of long-term disability insurance in case we face a life-altering event and become disabled and can no longer work. Or if the breadwinner of a family dies, the surviving minor children get life insurance. Again, $1 million in life insurance. This is an insurance policy, and that's what Social Security is. It's ours. It's our money. Nobody in DC gives us anything with Social Security. We pay for it. And what Donald Trump said yesterday is he's going to take the payments that we pay into our insurance policy. It's ours. He's going to just divert those and steal them. And then he said, and if reelected, I'm going to make that permanent, which means Social Security and Medicare go away. And that's the long-held dream of the Republican Party. The beast that they see, the only part of government that they hate is the part that is the people's absolutely 100% that they can't get their greedy little hands on. That's the part that they hate. That's why they hate Social Security. That's why Donald Trump said he's going to terminate Social Security if he's reelected.
Now, in the past, we had presidents like Bush who attempted to privatize it by taking that money and throwing it into the stock market. Tell us a little about that, because I want to migrate that into the reality of what they're trying to do.
So what it all comes down to, you go back to Bush, but you can go all the way back to Alf Landon, the guy who ran against FDR, and he lost every state in the union except 2. And it was a landslide of landslides because he ran against Social Security. That was his whole thing. And what he said is, it's just worthless IOUs. That was literally in 84 years ago, or no, 85 years ago. He said the same thing that George W. Bush said when he tried to steal our money and give it to his greedy liar friends on Wall Street, which is, oh, it's just worthless IOUs. The same worthless IOUs that the entire international banking system is built on, which is U.S. government bonds backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. Government. So this is their tactic. It takes different forms, but it's always the same thing. They look at the giant pot of money that we've all paid into with our money, and it's sitting there in these really solid instruments, government bonds, for us and only for us. And they can't stand it. So they go out anything they can do to reach their greedy little hands into that pot and steal our money. So they either try to just give it away in a fire hose of money to Wall Street like Bush did, or what Donald Trump is doing is just if they destroy the program, just totally destroy it, all the money is going to go to Wall Street anyways because there will be no system otherwise. We built Social Security so that we didn't have to go to the greedy liars on Wall Street. Social Security was the response to the global depression that Wall Street caused with the collapse back in 1929, right? So like really picture what they're doing. Social Security was put in place because of what Wall Street and the plutocrats did then. And they've spent 85 years trying to destroy it by any means they can. And now what said is just a full promise. If reelected, I terminate Social Security. That's what he promised yesterday.
What is interesting is there's another side as well, right? When you work for yourself, you and me, etc., we have to pay our full 15% or so, 14 point something percent of our wages in Social Security. But the kicker here is for the corporations who employ people. They are responsible for half of the Social Security taxes that people have to pay. Therefore, that is a big, because you know that the companies are not going to increase the people's salaries by 7.x%. They're just going to take that money that they no longer have to spend and either buy back their stocks or give it to as bonuses to their executives. Tell us a little bit about that dynamic.
So it's it's really important you bring up. It's just far stupider and more complicated than your setup, and that's part of the I think the plan here. This is not something that the president can actually do. So he's using non-existent powers to instruct the Treasury to do something that it can't do because by law, Social Security has to do a bunch of things. And one of those is we get the premiums paid in, we pay the benefits out. So what his order actually does is instructs the Treasury to try to figure out a way to have people stop paying for an amount of time into Social Security. So for a small business like mine, it's a nightmare scenario. It doesn't say that we then get to keep the money. We have to pay it all back in December or January. So all we're doing is like, instead of the automatic withholding that we have to withhold and pay Social Security, we now have to take that and put it somewhere else in an escrow account, maybe. Who knows? We just don't even know. And then in January, pay it all back. So it is not at all stimulative to the economy because no business can actually give that money, even if they wanted to, and they don't want to. But even if they wanted to, they couldn't give it to the workers because they just face an enormous liability at the end of the year, right? It's not actually, the president can't spend money. So it's just moving the books a little bit. And it's so complicated and just like ill thought out that has to be part of the plan. Because millions of small business owners are going to think that this is money that is given to them to, spend on things. And then they're going to get hit with an enormous bill, a half of a year, right? All at once that they owe. Do you think that the Fortune 500s are going to like bank on if Donald Trump gets reelected and then moves the entire Congress to rewrite the system so that Social Security is destroyed completely, and they're just going to spend the money. There's no way, even if they want that to happen, they're going to just put the money somewhere until it's owed. And what that really does is the interest will go to the companies. And so giant companies can actually benefit from this. Small businesses are just going to get totally punched in the face by this. It's gonna
let me tell you something, Alex. It's because this is important. I don't think a lot of people understand. First of all, Donald Trump is not smart enough to play chess, but the people behind him are. And what many don't understand is they don't necessarily care if the economy craters, if it means, as long as they get reelected. They don't care if small businesses put themselves in dire straits, meaning they are not as apt to what you know that you better bank that money. And if that money is banked, it doesn't go back into the economy. If the economy doesn't have money turning around, it stays stagnant. So what it is setting up many businesses for failure.
Yes.
Now, in that light, they don't mind that. Right now, with all the small restaurants failing, they're happy because McDonald's, after all these restaurants fail, McDonald's and Fridays and all the chains, they're going to have what again? More business.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like, I love staying focused on the fact that Donald Trump promised to terminate Social Security.
Right.
Everyone scream it from the hilltops.
Right.
He said the quiet part out loud. But on what you just said, that's absolutely right. People, I think most people, because most people are decent, they don't fully understand the sociopaths that we're dealing with and that pandemonium, that chaos, carnage, death, hurt, and misery are profitable for many of these people. These private equity barons who are sitting with these enormous pools of cash on the sidelines, they're rooting for a full economic collapse so they can just swoop in and buy up everything they can at a fire sale price. They root as hard as possible for mom and pop shops to be eliminated, because then they're going to get that property. They're going to then lease it back to the big corporations, which they also own. This is what people don't understand about the feedback loop between politics and private equity, is the chaos that we're seeing is extremely profitable for those very few on top, the billionaires who have made tens of billions of dollars since the start of the pandemic. And we have to go into this understanding that that's who we're fighting. That is who we're fighting. And that is whose bidding Donald Trump is doing. Why would someone want to destroy Social Security? Because it works. It works for the American people, and it costs us less than 1 penny of every dollar that we put in contributions goes to fund the whole system. And that's what the private equity barons hate. They see that and they're saying, I would whack on another 25, 30% fees for a far inferior product. That's what they hate. They hate systems that work. And that's what we're seeing Donald Trump say the quiet part out loud.
Now, Alex, I don't want you to think this is a diversion at all, or that we're diverting, because I think one of the biggest problems in the way we do politics and in the way we do media in this country is that we don't do that. We don't connect the dots. We'll talk only Social Security, not understanding that that has a permeative effect throughout the entire economic system. And I like that you brought that in with the barons and so forth, because without doing that, people simply don't understand that they're all connected. These things are all connected, and we have to look at it in sort of a total form. So I think that is very important. Now, what I'd like to hear from you now is let's pin down to the people that are getting Social Security right now, and specifically, let's go from the 60-year-old odd, because they have a tendency to fall for much of what the conservative mantra would put out there. I need a direct message why it is the current plan, the current administration, the current policies of the Republican Party is a clear and present danger for them.
absolutely important and critical. It's the truth is, I'm going to give you the very easy, but these are back of the envelope, right? Because we need to actually, the problem with chaos for profit, like Donald Trump is pursuing, is that we still need to figure out many of the impacts here, because it's Social Security is huge. And what he's proposing is just taking the money away, just stealing the funding from it, which means that Social Security goes away in 2 years. That's what it means. So for a 60-year-old, 65-year-old, 60-year-old who's planning on taking and hopefully looking really closely at whether they should take early retirement at 62 or wait until full retirement at 65 or 67, or even delay until 70, because that all affects your benefits. But for those people who are thinking that, so 2 years, for those people who are on Social Security right now, 2 years, that's how long Social Security can last with no revenue coming in, because it's got a dedicated revenue stream. And that's what Donald Trump is he's proposing removing it. And he's saying, oh, we're going to just defer it until the end of the year. But if I'm reelected, I'm going to terminate it. And we've seen that this guy does not care about what's legal, what is in his power. He does things that are clearly illegal, right? He sends federal troops to just snatch people off the streets. So thinking that we're going to be protected because, in fact, he can't do this or that, he's going to try. And in trying, he could destroy the system or damage the system so much that checks stop going out, that people, right? Look what he's done to the post office. You used to be able to count on the post office so much so that it was that courts, if it was filed in the U.S. postal system, they said it was going to get to where it was going legally, because that's how well the system worked. He put a crony in charge of it, and now it can take 2 weeks to get a piece of mail from A to B, because he's destroying this country. So what does it mean for a person on Social Security? We don't fully know yet. The ramifications of what this is going to do are not fully understood, because we don't know how are they going to operate when they don't have money coming in? What does that mean for the workers who are trying to get benefits for people? Obviously, Social Security is going to do everything it can to keep checks going out to every single person who has earned their benefits. And remember, for 85 years, through boom time and bust, through war and peace, through health and pandemic, Social Security has never missed a payment. And they're not going to start right now, but that is over the best attempts of Donald Trump to create a situation where Social Security could not fulfill its obligations. And that's the goal. That would undermine people's confidence in the system.
For those people who really think we have the trifecta, the legislative, the judiciary, and the executive managing or checking each other, I want to remind folks of one important fact. A few weeks ago, I wrote an article stating that we are changing our system from minority rule through the judiciary. Donald Trump is appointing a whole lot of judges. And for those people who think, well, we can elect Donald Trump again, and the judiciary would keep him in check when he tries to do illegal things. He is currently in this administration appointing more judges than any other president has. And as such, and because he's appointing cronies, many of his rules, whether constitutional or not, the federal, or rather the judges, are the arbiters of the Constitution. And if they say it's constitutional, it is constitutional. Let me hear your take on that, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the power corrupts. And the more power he's accrued into the executive, the more corrupt it is and has become. But the thing, it's easy to see how corrupt he is. I mean, he's just like a straight criminal. Him and his family are looking at this as, how much money can we make off of this presidency? They're trying to sell off everything that's not nailed down and then, use a hammer to pry that stuff up too. But the other part of corruption that's important is that corruption seeps out. Corruption enters the system and it corrupts all who come in contact with it. Everything that Donald Trump has done in the bureaucracy, in the judicial bureaucracy and the federal bureaucracy, the executive bureaucracy, it's all corrupting because the people who he's putting in place, they see what's going on. They recognize what's happening. They understand that their only path to maintaining power is to protect the man who gave them that power, Donald Trump. This, not the system, not the U.S. Constitution or the United States of America. Nope. They bow to Donald Trump. And that's what he has done. I mean, look at Bill Barr. Jeff Sessions wasn't enough of a bootlick for Donald Trump. So he put in place a guy who has warped the fundamental fabric of the American judicial system to serve his master, Donald Trump. So the first thing is everyone who just has this weird belief that it can't happen here, it is happening here. We're halfway through it happening here. This is how a republic falls. This is how it happens. One man sees that he needs to destroy the system in order to protect himself and his little criminal operation from the ramifications of what he's done. And that's what we're up against. That is who we are fighting against at the ballot box in November.
Alex,
luckily, go ahead.
Marching orders on Social Security going forward. How do we march forward and make sure that this doesn't become a reality?
Ring the alarm as loudly as possible. Let everyone know. He literally said he was going to, if reelected, he's going to terminate Social Security. So we have to beat him at the ballot box. What I was on my soapbox saying is that luckily, as this man has tried to burn down the system, our democracy is standing. Our voices are powerful. We need to use them. We need to vote him out of office in November, and every one of his enablers, every one of those senators who should be standing up right now for the United States of America, but instead are empowering Donald Trump, all of them, fire them in November. But we also need to do more, starting right now. Call your senators, call your elected representatives, call everybody and tell them that they better keep their hands off of Social Security. It's our money, not theirs. Ring the alarm as loudly as possible.
Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works. Thank you for having been on Politics Done Right. And thank you for being such a hard worker, 7 days a week.
Thanks.
Well, folks, I hope you like that. That was solid. Folks, don't forget, we are winning this thing. We just have to do our job. We just have to prevent the lies. We just have to counter absolutely everything. Michael Joshua, thank you so kindly for that super chat. Michael Joshua went ahead and he pushed that $sign and he gave us a super chat. Thank you so kindly for the super chat. Folks, remember that the book that I've been talking to you guys about for some time now, It's Worth It. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. And let me tell you, in that book, I account for people like Mike Cisak in our room. There's nothing you can tell Mike Cisak in the short term that will change him off of his current agenda. There are a lot of people on the right, and that's why I love to have Mike Cisak and a few others righties that are currently unconvincible here, because they are the last one that throws the line to try and get up, throws the line to try and get up. They're the last ones that we have to save, because they will try to hold on to a fallacy till the ship is about to sink. But that's okay. We still love you all. Anyway, folks, you can go ahead and get that book at Amazon right now. Eventually, we'll have it also on at our store. There is a link for the book at Amazon. I just put that into the feed. There's a link for the book at Amazon. Again, the title of the book is It's Worth It. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Go ahead and get that book. So by doing that, you're supporting Politics Done Right. But you know what? You don't even have to go to get the book that way. You can read the book right now if you just go ahead and become a Patreon. If you go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, you don't only get to read It's Worth It. You get to read all our books. You know what? Let me go ahead and bring up that part of the website to show you what I'm talking about. If you go ahead and become a patron, if you become a patron, you can go ahead and read. Let me put that on the screen right now. Para ver, right here. All those are the current books that we have that you can read on the screen right now by becoming a patron. Going to politicsdoneright.com/patron. Become, I think it's a $4.90 or something like that. And you have access to all 4 of those books. You don't have to actually buy a physical copy. That is how becoming a patron. And we have 3 more books in the pipeline. How to Make America Utopia is still in the process. This is one that you're writing as well, because as I get more material, we put it in there. But all these books written, and every book that we write, I have 3 more. I have a book about that talks about how to become a blogger and doing other things so that you can become. We need a ton more bloggers, to put it bluntly. I'm not talking about just the blogger blogging about food and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about this kind of blogger that informs the body politic. We need a lot more, and you can be. And that's what we're going to talk about in one of the books as well. We have about 3 books in the pipeline right now to come in. Anybody who's a subscriber, all those books, you can read it online at our site. But again, you can go to Politics Done Right, or rather, you can go to Amazon and just type my name in there, Egberto Willies, and you can see all the books that we have there, and go ahead and pick up the new one, pick up the rest as well. Anyhow, folks, I thank you so kindly. I thank you so kindly for being here with me today. We had a lot to talk about. We had a lot to go over. But you know what? We have so much more to do. And I want to tell you something. After Biden is elected, because Biden will be elected president of the United States in a landslide, if we all do our job, no fear. I want nobody to fear, to think Donald Trump, the dumbest president we've ever had. Of course, the people around him, they're not dumb. They're just milking you all. They're not dumb. The people around Donald Trump aren't dumb. Donald Trump is a dummy. Remember that. Please remember, if we do our job, there are more of us than there are of them. Just go out there and do the job, and we will win. And we will win big. We are going to win the Senate. We're going to expand the majorities in the House, and we're going to win the presidency. And then the jobs begin. We got a lot of new progressives in there. Cory Bush is now in Congress. We have Bauman from New York is now in Congress. Of course, we have our hero, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Alana Presley, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. They're all there, and we're building that progressive movement of young people who are going to do the work of changing this country into the country that is an egalitarian society that supports positivity, support economic activity for us all. Remember that, my brothers and sisters. That's what we're fighting for. We're not fighting for the few. We're fighting for the all. We're not fighting for the few. We're fighting for the all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.